Good afternoon, everyone. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, and today I'm going to do a video on canning sweet potatoes. I was debating whether to do just a blanch and freeze, and I may do that on a next video, but for this one it's going to be canning, and it is not going to be a huge amount of them because this is I normally just bake a sweet potato whole and then slice it up and eat it. I love it that way. But going to try to can it and then see how I like it with a meal. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so obviously first things first, and I'm going to peel these. And I did purchase ones that were long and thin. Was considering making them into fries, and I may make another batch like that, but as I said, this batch is going to be pressure canned, and they're a beautiful color inside. Just to see how, it's going to be a small batch, to see how I like them. I'm trying to eat a little healthier, and see how that works out. Okay, so I'm going to get these all peeled and then I'll get back to you. Okay, as I already stated, I'm planning to do this as a small batch. I've got 8 mason jars cleaned and ready to be packed, and I'm just going to do a raw pack with these. Cut them into cubes. Yeah, I think that'll work. Okay. Now I should be able to either bake these or boil them and mash. Once again, in the past, all I've ever done is bake them whole. Okay. And it looks like each one of these might do 1 jar. Okay, so I'm going to get a pot of boiling water on the stove so I could fill these up with boiling water when I'm ready. Okay, so I've put both my canner on the stove with 3 quarts of water at the bottom and a rack at the bottom, and I've set that up to start boiling, and I've also got a pot of boiling water here to add to these jars when they're full. Now I'm probably going to add a teaspoon of salt to each one as well. And once again, you want to leave about 1 inch of headspace in each of these jars. I probably should be using a different knife. Okay, I'll get back to you when these jars are full. Okay, it would appear as though I have enough to fill 6 pint jars and some left over, but once we put hot water in, we may put a few more pieces in there. So, get a funnel. And fill these up with water. Now, I think I will also add half a tablespoon of salt in each one. Once again, that's not something you have to do. Okay, we've got those full. Now I'm going to make sure that there's no air. A little bit hard, I packed them down pretty good. Okay, so that's fine. I think we're taking a piece out of that one. And maybe take a bit of water out of that one. Okay. When you do pour the hot water over a vegetable like this, it does tend to soften it a bit, so it will, and it absorbs the water, so it will sink down a bit. I think I could add one more piece in some of them. I do want a full jar. Just pines, but a full jar. Okay, so I've got this little bit left, and I think I'll just put that aside for dinner tonight. Okay, I have put my 6 lids in the boiling water that I had. I have some left over. I've got my vinegar, and I'm going to clean the rims of each of these jars. And then put a fresh lid on them. Oh, lost my magnet. Okay. Okay. As usual, I'll put the balance of my vinegar into the canner. Why waste it? And use new. And okay, rings, finger tight. And everything goes into the canner. And we put the lid on and wait for it to vent. I must be getting old and weak. Okay. Oops, I forgot to put the salt in these, but it doesn't matter because that's an optional thing to do. You don't necessarily have to put salt in. Okay, so my pressure canner is starting to vent, and I'm going to let it vent for a good 10 minutes. I've set the timer, and when the timer goes off, then we'll put the weight on to allow it to come up to 10, 11 pounds pressure. Okay? Okay, my timer has just gone off. It's vented for a full 10 minutes. I have removed one of the rings from this weight so that it will only go to 10, 11 pounds rather than the 15 pounds. And we start the timer when it reaches the 10 pounds, not when we put the weight on. So when it starts to jiggle or it reaches the 10, 11 pounds pressure. Now, I raw pack these. The recommendation is to hot pack, although there are people who have made raw pack sweet potatoes. This is once again my first attempt at doing sweet potatoes. I'm trying to eat a little bit healthier here. And there are those that will do a sweet syrup, and that's something I want to avoid. Want to avoid a little bit of sugar and or extra sugar. So I did not do that, and I have no interest in doing that, especially with a vegetable. So okay, so when this gets up to the required pressure for my altitude, which is the 10, 11 pounds. Now, depending on your altitude, you have to check and you have to make sure what pressure you need to can at. Not everyone is at the same altitude. And at that point, we canned pints for 65 minutes. And that seemed a little long to me, and double-checked and triple-checked through a number of sources. And it is 65 minutes, so an hour and 5 minutes for pints, and 90 minutes, which is an hour and a half for quarts. Long time. So I am going to set the timer for 65 minutes once it reaches temperature. And as you can see, the gauge is starting to move. But I'm going to hang in here and not set the timer until it is where it's supposed to be. So once again, this is my first attempt at canning sweet potatoes. Normally I would just buy the odd one fresh, put it in the oven whole, cut it into slices and peel, and it's very tasty to me that way. This will be a different way of eating them for me. I'm also considering making sweet potato fries, and that could be one of my next projects. So anyway, I will set the timer on as soon as we come up to pressure, and then we will get back to you when this has completed its pressure canning cycle, and I've taken the lid off. Okay, have a great day.